Guys, what's going on? I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Unite, and honestly, I've been having a ton of fun, whether it's on stream at twitch.tv, / Gabe Brainery, or it's just me playing with my friends or just playing solo. It's been having a lot of fun, and I've been picking up a couple of tips and tricks, and I want to share them with you guys today, so that way you guys can be better at Pokemon Unite and be ready for if you pick up this game, or let's say you're playing it and you're not essentially winning, maybe these tips will help you win better in the future. So without further ado, let's get on to the 50 amazing Pokemon Unite tips. Yeah. At number 1, guys, I have to say is go through the tutorial. Yes, every single one, as they offer good advice on how MOBAs and honestly how Pokemon Unite as a whole works. Plus, it gives you free AOS coins, and you need the AOS coins in order to unlock the characters and more items. So it's really just more in your benefit, and there's nothing to lose from doing the tutorials. Plus, the tutorials are really short, so you can knock them out, all of them, in like what, 15-20 minutes, really, if you take your time and you're not rushing. So hey, try them out, go do them. Tip number 2 I have is honestly try remapping the buttons to work better for you and how you feel more comfortable playing the game, as oftentimes you play a game and the buttons are kind of there, but they feel very awkward to press and really awkward to do. So honestly, what I suggest is going to the settings, go to the button settings, and boom, from there you can just rearrange your settings. You can rearrange how you want it. I personally have it so that I have I have my second move being the ZL, and I have my first move being ZR, because it's honestly easier to press the trigger buttons for an attack that I'm more spamming, and then have my Unite move be R, since it's more comfortable for me, since pressing that shoulder button, pressing the little trigger buttons is better than pressing constantly a shoulder button. That's personally for me. Plus, out of force of habit, I constantly press the ZL too, so it worked better for me as well. A good thing to note is honestly change your frame rate to high, as you generally are playing on the Nintendo Switch. We're all playing on the Nintendo Switch for the most part as of right now. So you basically want the most frames that you can get, as that way you're not just sitting there with like running at 50 FPS, running at 30, and somebody's able to just quickly combo you and your screen is going slow and all this other stuff. So try to get your frame rate and as high as you can, as that way you're able to run at a nice easy 60 frames per second, as the game most of the times runs at 59 frames per second, I noticed, and then a couple times it dips down to 57 for me, but generally it's like in the 57 to 60 range all the time, all day, every day. At number 4 is honestly change the vibration to off or on, if depending on how you feel. Personally, this is more of a personal preference, but I prefer having it off. That way it doesn't distract me in a personal fight, and I'm not getting comboed, and my like entire controller is just like it actually is like there. So I prefer just actually having vibration off. Tip number 5 is honestly colorblind mode. It's pretty useful. It's if the colors look really similar to you, you can always change them. That way stuff stands out more and better for you. So try it out. There's no shame in using colorblind mode. Since you're already here, I suggest going to the control settings and honestly changing up things like opponent priority locking, as well as your camera. You could do that as well. As honestly, let's say opponent locked on priority, I prefer having it on the HP value rather than HP percent, as percentages are sometimes like really skewed. Like percentages can round up, and then it's like, oh no, that wasn't really the lowest person. So I prefer going for values over percentage. Since you're already changing up your controls, I suggest changing attack to advance, as this will make it easier for targeting opposing Pokemon versus wild Pokemon. The last thing you want is for a random Apom to get in the way while you're trying to fight off a Cinderace. At number 8, I have to say is turn boosted attack gauge on, or I call it basically the combo gauge. And essentially this allows you to know when a Pokemon is stronger, let us say. While you're actually doing this, I suggest turning automatic basic attacks off, as you don't want it to basically put you in a combo and then you're starting to hit A, and that's not really what you want to do. So turning it off is better. That way you're not just randomly having the game put inputs for you, and you're not just randomly attacking. At tip number 10, I have to say is turn on lock on icon, as this allows you to essentially choose who you want to fight specifically in a fight, compared to if you basically goes off to like who's closest to you. As sometimes you're playing in a fight and the opponent actually overextends, they're really low, and then their teammate then tries to body block you. So that way they're basically taking the hits instead of their friends. That way their friend's able to get out. But honestly, if you have it like this, that way your attacks actually prioritize to the lower person, and you're able to basically lock on to, let's say, the Ninetales that's trying to run away. You're able to be like, no, get back here. At tip number 11, I suggest turning off in motion pursuit mode, as when you basically play the game, your moves try to basically dictate you and put you closer, let's say, to the opponent. And the last thing you want to do is basically try to go for that finishing attack. They then pull you in and then start comboing you. So it's really good to just be able to keep your distance Now, tip number 12 I have is honestly go down and turn scoring controls to basically press a button rather than actually having it hold down button. You know, to try to basically press it down and hold it, and then, your game just doesn't respond, or sometimes it's stuck. Pressing button is really easier because you're just able to spam it a little bit. Then your Pokemon will do it. And if you press it again, it won't interrupt it. Number 13 I have is camera follow moves on is useful for some Pokemon, let's say like Venusaur, where your solar beam kind of goes off screen a little bit. You want to basically do this so that way you're able to essentially see where the move takes you and see where the move goes, rather than you just sitting there being like, I guess it goes forward, I guess it goes like this. That way you're actually able to snipe your opponents better. Move aim follows movement direction on. As for Pokemon like Zeraora or other Pokemon, as you really basically want to have the ability to essentially get out, and let's say you go for an attack, it doesn't actually accidentally pull you closer like a Zeraora. Like let's say you go for Volt Switch, and instead of you actually going in the opposite direction you want it to go and run away, you actually instead are getting closer, and it messes you up. So have move aim follow movement direction is really useful, as that way you're able to essentially dip and dodge, get out of the way, and dictate how you want to go in the fight, rather than just simply, oh no, I guess I'm stuck here because I pressed the move at the wrong time. At number 15 I have to say is honestly turn move aim snaps you want off to get better control for your attacks, so that you don't miss after a Pokemon moves slightly away and or auto targets to the wrong Pokemon or direction. Now, tip number 16 is honestly have mini map hidden sensitivity can be high, so that way you're quickly able to pan out and see where your opponent is. This can obviously change depending on how you are, but the last thing you want to do is slowly scroll on the mini map or scroll on the map to see where stuff is. Sometimes you want to quick information, quickly be able to pan out and be like, okay, they're here, okay, there's stuff like here. So changing it to high is really useful and really clean. That way you're actually able to be able to move the direction that you want to move and be able to get there and see all the stuff that's happening on the battle really quickly rather than slowly. Tip number 17 is just press L in a fight. If you're ever in a fight, just press the L stick in a fight. Boom, you're able to essentially see the map, and you're able to quickly be able to pan out and see stuff better. It essentially allows you to view while moving as well, so it's really useful for you to have more controls like that. Now, honestly, I like to have the minimap shown as big as possible, so that way I know exactly where stuff is and I'm able to see it better. That way, if my teammate is running away or somebody is scoring, I'm able to see it and be aware of it and not just be like, where are they? What's happening? No, I'm actually able to fully dictate and see where they're at and see what's happening. Now, again, these are all preference settings. These all come down to how you want your minimap and how you want your camera sensitivity to be. This is just how I have it, so I wanted to share them with you guys. Now, aim assist can be on or off, but I personally have it off, again, just because I want to be able to control my moves better and be able to dictate how I want to fight better. So I have it personally off, but this is all preference. Now, finally going outside of settings, tip number 20 I have is honestly, since the game is brand new, there's a lot of free goodies. Now, this might change with time, but there's a lot of free goodies for players. So honestly, go to the trainer level by pressing R, go to the battle pass. You can get a lot of free stuff. Even if you haven't bought the battle pass, there's a lot of free goodies that you can get. So going in and just doing all this stuff works really well. And honestly, while you're at the battle pass, remember to collect the missions first, then go to the battle pass and collect the battle pass. It's weird like this, but essentially it's done like that. So this is a good way of just you being able to collect more rewards, getting more stuff, free Pokemon, free items, go a very long way. For example, you can get, Venusaur, you can get Ninetales, you can get Slowbro really early on. You don't have to buy these Pokemon at the shop. Same thing goes for Cinderace for the 14-day trial, I believe. So yeah, all these stuff goes a really long way. Make sure to check stuff like the battle pass, check stuff like the events tab, and even more rewards in the beginners challenge and the mail as well. You're able to get Zeraora since the game is brand new. You're able to get Zeraora fairly quickly, and it's only for a limited time. Every Pokemon is different, and every Pokemon basically attacks differently or has different buffs or whatever. And this is essentially good. And it can be very confusing as to know what your playstyle is, or essentially I want to say what type of item you should give them. Because the last thing, for example, I've been playing a lot of Slowbro and a lot of Gengar. So the last thing you want to do is essentially give some of these Pokemon muscle bands, as it wouldn't help them compared to giving them a scope lens. So what I like to do is wise glasses, and instead what I like to do is essentially you can actually give the Pokemon the better item that basically they deserve. So stuff like special attackers deserve wide glasses, physical attackers deserve muscle bands, and things like that go a really long way. Now, let's say you want to equip the right item, but you're not sure if your Pokemon's a special or physical attacker. Tip number 22, I got you. This is a whole chart of basically the Pokemon that are released at the moment. Shout out to, I cannot pronounce their name and I do not want to butcher it in this video, but basically them on Twitter, as they essentially basically made this whole chart that essentially shows what Pokemon moves are special, what Pokemon moves are physical, and for the most part, it lets you basically know whether or not you want to give your Pokemon a special, you know, like I said before, a Wise Glasses or let's say a Muscle Band, and it goes a long way. You can obviously give a Muscle Band to any Pokemon, but realistically, it becomes a question of would you really prioritize giving them that item over another item? It's all up to you and all what you want to do. If you're still unsure on as to what items you want, hey, I'll make videos in the future. But until then, you could also go basically to battle prep, go to held items, then press give an item, then press Y. I know it's a lot, but once you do all that, you'll then be able to see, you know, the set that you actually want to give to the Pokemon. And this essentially allows you to know, oh snap, these are the recommended sets, and these are what people in like higher tiers in competitive are running on their Slowbro, on their Gengar, on these Pokemon. And you're able to essentially go, oh, okay, and you basically get a good mindset, a good idea of how you want to do this and how you want to play. Battling is everything in Pokemon Unite, and if you don't know how to use the character or how to basically what to do with them, what's the point? So guys, honestly, comment down below as to what Pokemon you want me to make a whole guide video on, and I could essentially make a guide video for that Pokemon. Let's say you want to learn how to use Cinderace, you want to learn how to use Pikachu. I'm happy to make those guides, so comment down below which Pokemon you want me to make a guide video first and on, and like the one that you like the most, so that way I know you guys are thinking on the same wavelength as me. So yeah, but basically tip number 24 I have is that honestly, you can basically go and practice the Pokemon and feel them out even if you haven't bought them. Yes, you can actually go to the Pokemon section, go click on a Pokemon, then click on practice, and you can essentially try out the Pokemon and see how they feel and see how the moves feel. You can level up quickly so that you know basically how a Pokemon feels at what levels. You can even do all this. That way you essentially know how a Pokemon feels. You can feel comfortable with them, and that way you're not spending your precious AOS coins purchasing the Pokemon and you don't even like playing them. So yeah, try it out, test them out, see how you feel and how you like these Pokemon. Since you're in the practice area, you can actually turn your stats on, so that way you're able to see how much your attacks do, how much damage it does, and it's very good for testing out things like combos, testing out things like that. So all you got to do is put on the substitute, go to the substitute that's on like the top right, I believe, and from there all you got to do is just fight it, and you can see essentially how much damage your Pokemon does, how much damage your Pokemon move does at different levels, and that way you're able to essentially go, okay, I'm at this level, I know I do this much damage, and it's really good for getting that good data out of the way, and you're able to essentially keep that in the back of your head. Because let's say you want to finish off an opposing person, sometimes pressing that move 1 is better than pressing that move 2. So hey, try it out. Tip number 26 I have is honestly, since you're in the practice, test out the different options, test out which attack you want to do, which one's better. That way you essentially know, not only because you read the description, but you're able to essentially see, hey, I like move 1 over move 2, I like using this over this attack, and it's very useful. So that way you're able to essentially auto set it on when you're playing Pokemon, but also you're able to essentially then know which attack to go for, as this goes a long way, because you're not just randomly picking the wrong move and then you're like, oh no, I didn't have this attack. Like for example, Slowbro is better with Surf than Scald, so you're not picking Scald because you thought Scald was better. Instead, you're actually picking Surf because you know Surf is better. The last thing you want to do is honestly spend your precious AOS coins purchasing a Pokemon that's honestly free. I mean, they will give you the money back if you ever get a duplicate, but honestly, what's the point? You're better off spending that money like somewhere else, or spending it on another Pokemon faster than basically spending that Pokemon and getting it. And it's a very long process, but basically what I'm saying is that check the 14-day welcome gift. You can get Pokemon like Cinderace, Ninetales, for example, for free really early on, and they're really good Pokemon that you can try out. So don't try spending your money on these Pokemon. Instead, use it so that way you can save your precious AOS coins for other things and other Pokemon or other items. That way you're able to essentially play the way you want to play, better, faster, and you're not spending your AOS coins in places that you don't want to or shouldn't spend your AOS coins. Tip number 28 I have is honestly, speaking about free, you can upgrade an item by going to the shop and buying these purple coins called item enhancers. You can use your cash actually to buy them, so that's the best part because they're essentially free. You can essentially do this so that way you're able to essentially upgrade your items for free. Like you don't have to spend money getting the item enhancers. You can buy the item enhancers, and from there, once you buy them, boom, you can then level up your items how you want to level up, and that way you're able to essentially have top level items easier. You know, let's say you have that, like, you know, that level 1 Wise Glasses. Sometimes, you know, buying those item enhancers, getting into level 2 makes or breaks the game. Sometimes it makes it different. So try it out and try getting them item enhancers for free. Now, tip number 29 is honestly in a battle practice and honestly prioritize farming on mini characters all the time, the last thing you want to do is do nothing in Pokemon Unite, as the times you spend doing nothing, your opponents are actually farming and getting stronger. You ever notice where sometimes you win a fight and then in like a minute or like a third couple seconds pass by, and then your opponent's all of a sudden randomly stronger and like way buffer, and they're like, whoa, how did you get 2 levels higher? Yeah, that happens because you're able to farm Pokemon. In the beginning, prioritize farming little Pokemon. That way you're able to essentially prioritize the mini Pokemon and Pokemon on the map, and you're able to essentially get stronger and get your level faster and do more damage compared to your opponents, as being level 5 is way better than being level 3. Trust me when I say this. So take the time to basically farm up and basically practice farming. That way you're not just rushing into a fight and dying immediately. This also goes very well for like early game. You don't need to fight your opponent. You don't need to score right away. Sometimes it's better to just farm up. Once you get that advantage, once you get that nice little team advantage, then you're able to essentially fight your opponents. Speaking of team advantage, tip number 30, actually I should say, is take a fight when it's easier. I.e., when you have basically a numbers advantage. Let's say it's a 3v2. Let's say it's a 2v1. Maybe it's a 2v2, but you and your teammates are actually higher level than your opponents. Take that fight. It's better to take a fight when you're in the advantage than when you're in a disadvantage, as it's oftentimes easier. Now, while you're basically trying to fight, tip number 31 I have is play around your base. Your base heals you a little slow, but it heals you nonetheless. So fight around your base and try and fight around the little area that you can. So that way, let's say your opponent tries to fight you, you run into your base, you're basically healing while they're taking damage. So if they're not able to essentially do damage to you, you're healing up all the damage that you previously took from them. And it goes a long way for basically fighting your opponent and basically making it easier for you to win while your opponents can't heal or in that position. Now, honestly, you should try fighting around your base and not fighting your opponents when they're at their base, unless you have a clear, like I said, i.e. before, numbers advantage. You can take a fight and win it. It's better to just basically hold off, farm some Pokemon, and then from there attack the opponents faster or better. Also, you can also wait for them to overextend and make a mistake on you guys. So try it out, see how you guys feel about it, see how you guys don't want to do it. But for number 32 tip I have is honestly scoring right away isn't normally the best way to do it. It's honestly better to kind of hold off a little bit of the points in the early game, I want to say, and wait for your opponents to basically be knocked out. Wait for your opponents to basically be really weak so you can scare them off and force them to run away, as this is oftentimes better to scoring, because the last thing you want to do is try and rush in and score and then you get bodied because both of them are by the base and they just clap you. Like that's the last thing you want to do. So honestly, try to score when your opponents are low and running away, but also try to do it when basically you already want to fight. Now, when your teammates are trying to score, try blocking your opponents. Try basically body blocking your teammates, because that way, let's say your teammate's trying to score, that you actually want to basically body block. So, let's say they go for an attack and they hit you instead of your teammates. Now your teammate's able to score and your teammates are not interrupted. So blocking your opponents, trying to fight them off and try to basically prevent them from attacking your teammate is really useful and really a good thing to do, especially if 2 of you are on base and they're running back. It's really good way of actually being able to score and do that way. So sometimes having your teammate score and then you be on the lookout, you waiting for somebody to pop up and then attack them, try it out. Try body blocking your opponent and blocking your teammate from basically getting attacked. Tip number 34 I have is, in the heat of battle, is it important to check the minimap and see where your teammates are. Sometimes your teammates need help, sometimes your teammates are retreating, and it's important to know when a lane is defenseless, when a lane needs defending, and it goes a long way with communicating your squad. So I suggest in the heat of the battle, check your minimap as much as possible. Speaking of squads, try squatting up with your friends. Pair up with using Discord. It's a good way to make friends, build a team, climb ranks, and have fun without being annoyed at that random person that keeps feeding. Sometimes having communication and playing with your friends goes a long way and helps you essentially go further than if you were to just play by yourself. Now, tip number 36 I have is try not to hold off too many points at once, as the more points you hold, the easier it is for when you die, you basically lose a lot of points. So basically, sometimes it's better to get those 9 points in, those 10 points in when you can, obviously when it's safe, of course, and getting them into the base and scoring rather than just sitting there with those nice 30 waiting for that like Zapdos to show up so then you can score an extra 100. It goes a long way with you slowly trying to actually build up the score rather than you just being like, I'm gonna have one big score, because if you go down, what's the point of you having all those points if all those points are now gone? Now, honestly, guys, tip number 37 is never give up. Honestly, you should never give up in a game, but especially Pokemon Unite, as a game can look brim and you could quote unquote have an advantage, and then the enemy team or you take Zapdos and you turn it back in the last 2 minutes. You take it back, you guys win the match. So never give up, never try to just easily, I want to say, give up and not play. always try your best and always try to make the comeback, as sometimes you never know when you can actually make the comeback and you surprise yourself by making that exact comeback. It ain't over till it's over, and that's a true statement. Number 38 I have is, honestly, if you find yourself losing a lot with your team or even by yourself, look up some videos on YouTube. Watch live streams. I stream Pokemon Unite every Sunday. See how people higher up than you do. And you can basically know how the games play. A good place to check out is honestly on YouTube. A good place to check out is twitch.tv, /Gabe Rainery. That's my Twitch, link in the description. But there's also other Pokemon Unite streamers that do really well and do really fun. So that way you're able to essentially learn the game from them. Tip number 39 I have is use grass for sneak attacks. Sometimes waiting in the bushes and having your opponents walk by is really useful, so you can jump them and they're not expecting you there because they can't see you. You then jump them, you get the edge, you go pa pa pa, you just beat them up, and you're just able to then take their points and they didn't even know that you were there. So hiding in grass is really good for sneak attacks. At the same time, you can also use the grass to more of a defense. If you're ever trying to run away, use the grass to run away, make yourself hit it, and then from there, all you got to do is return back to base and heal up. Tip number 41 I have is, when you're low, honestly, return to base. Returning to base heals you up faster than if you were to simply just sit in your base for a while. Returning to your base heals you up faster. You're then able to go and fight, and it basically takes you from, like, let's say 2% all the way up to 80, 100%, and it goes a really long way. Now, since you're at base basically being low, tip number 42 is to honestly super jump. Super jump is super important, super useful, as when you're able to do this, you're able to get back into a fight way faster, and it's better than just slowly walking or slowly running over to your opponents. Try super jumping when you can. It's really useful for then being able to then go jump in, stop your opponents from scoring, and even help your teammates and save them. At the same time, if you're playing with a teammate, sometimes baiting is really good. And that's tip number 43. So if you're ever low and you're running away, try baiting your opponents to basically chase you. So that way, they run into you and your teammate who's sitting in the bushes, and then go get jumped by you and your teammates, because it's like, oh snap, this wasn't like a Pokemon low. It was actually an ambush. And that way, it's a quick way of just surprising your teammates, surprising your opponents, and actually getting the edge on them. Tip number 44 I have is, honestly, play a role. I love Slowbro, but I cannot 1v3 Pokemon when I play Slowbro. So I have to play more supportive and more defensive when I'm playing Slowbro. So what I try not to do is not to feed and not to get clapped by my opponents and not try to take a 1v3. So playing your role and knowing is actually when you can take a fight, when you cannot, how your Pokemon plays is really important. Tip number 45 I actually have is, honestly, pick the lane you want to go in. Sometimes picking, going top, going bottom is better for your Pokemon, better for you. So try pick up the lane that actually works really well. You got top lane, you got middle, which is oftentimes referred to as jungle, and you have bottom lane. So obviously normally what ends up happening is you have one person go middle, two go top, two go bottom, and you pick a lane that's best for your Pokemon, best for your role, and best for your team altogether. Because the last thing you want to do is just honestly have two people go mid, and people don't really get that much XP in mid because both people went there. So at normally times, try to, if you see too many people going one direction, try going a different direction to get the XP as well. Tip number 46 I should say, is honestly, if 3 go bottom, don't go bottom. Instead, go top, go to the EX, as you're not basically going to be able to get your experience as you want. You basically want to get the experience you can by yourself or with a teammate, as oftentimes if it's 3 or more people, it gets clouded. You're not going to get as much XP as you really want. So I suggest going the lane that really is better for you, or sometimes even that's the road less taken by, honestly. Tip number 47 I have is, honestly, if you're unsure which lane to take, you could actually do is in the battle prep while you're in a match, is actually see which lane is recommended for you. Let's say I play Slowbro. Slowbro's recommended lane is top. So this works a really good way and a really long way, as you're able to essentially know which lane direction you're able to go, and you're able to communicate with your teammates. That way, let's say everyone in the team goes, you're then able to know, okay, who's going top, who's going bottom. You're then knowing that without being surprised in the last couple of seconds. Tip number 48 I have is, honestly, wait for Zapdos and go for Rotom. Honestly, like, sometimes waiting for your opponents to weaken Zapdos or Rotom is super fine and super good, because that way, they weaken them, and then from there, you and your teammates then jump them and take all the XP and finish off your teammates, finish off your opponents, because your opponents are actually weak. So sometimes waiting for the last second for you and your team to take Zapdos and Rotom works a really long way, and it basically goes really useful for you guys to then take the score and then beat your opponents. Tip number 49, guys, I have is, honestly, experiment and try to do different stuff differently. oftentimes we find ourselves playing a playstyle or playing a Pokemon that we're just like, okay, cool, and we just play that one thing. But experimenting and trying out different things goes a really long way, as we get to see what Pokemon we like better, what Pokemon we do better with, which route works better for me, what item works better with my Pokemon, how I want to do it. Experimenting goes a really long way, and don't be afraid to try new things. Tip number 50 I honestly have is subscribe to YouTube. No, I'm joking. And honestly, tip number 50 I have is try to take 2v1s. Honestly, oftentimes we see this where our teammates kind of like, our teammate doesn't really help us. We try and go in thinking our teammate's there and our teammate isn't there, and then we get clapped. This happens a lot of times, so try to be a better teammate. Try to support your teammate when you can and try to save them. Sometimes if you're playing, you're able to CC them, you're able to stun your opponent. Sometimes stunning your opponent and getting them to not be able to knock out your teammate and allowing your teammate to run away is really useful, and trying to save them. So take those 2v1s, try to support your teammate, try to help them. It is a team game after all. It is 5v5. So oftentimes playing better as a team is better in the long run than just playing by yourself and playing solo. So hey, try it out. And if any of these tips helped you out and anything I said in today's video was not clear, I stream on Twitch, link in the description. Come hang out, come check me out. Ask me any questions there. I answered any questions live, so that way you guys are able to essentially understand the game better. It's a bit easier for me to, explain live than it would be to answer a comment. So yeah, but if you don't have time for a live stream, it's okay. You can comment down below, share with a friend. If any of these tips helped you, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, guys, that's all what I got for today. My name is Gabe, and I'm out. Peace. Later.